Just pause your freaking mind and hear that calling, taking over you. Wanna feel it, your vibration, hear your screaming liberation, but keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. You know you gotta keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. Don't you let that know, easy let it go. Feelings go by flow, come and let it show, but keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. Keep it low, gotta keep it low, keep it low, keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. At times it feels like you're not gonna make it. Open your heart and love what you're creating. A new life, new dawn, all your fears are gone. It's time you know I wanna feel it, your vibration, hear your screaming liberation, but keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. You know you gotta keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. Don't you let that know, easy let it go. Feelings go by flow, come and let it show, but keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. You know you gotta keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. Don't you let that know, gotta take it slow. Feelings go by flow, come and let it show, but keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. You know you gotta keep it low, keep it low, keep it low.
I'm the illest, rolling up like I already did it. With the subs up, you better listen. Coming up, but ain't no competition. Nah, I ain't tripping. All the boys got 'em moving to my flow. Now the girls got 'em dropping low. Going through the most, cause they ain't afraid to grow. Coast to the coast, I'ma hit your radio. Dreaming about it every day. I know that now I'm finally on my way. I know that I've been on my gun, I've been telling myself I do it for me, mommy, for nobody else. I'm nothing, I'm looking what I see. Hit different, hit different. When a little mama got a big vision. Hit different, aiming high, baby, I go the distance. I've been putting in work, putting in time, putting me first. Now my whole life hit different. With the pain, with the bang, let it hit different. Ooh, over there, who's the hot one with the long hair? Looky, ooh, that's me. Mirror, showing them my bad bitch. And I don't see the girl that I fell, so down and out on the self. A total mind and body globe, down in every cell. Living it up, ooh. And I'ma go and killing it, cause this is what I do. Dreaming about it every day. I know that now I'm finally on my way. I know that I've been on my gun, I've been telling myself I do it for me, mommy, for nobody else. I'm nothing, I'm looking what I see. Hit different. When a little mama got a big vision. Hit different. Aiming high, baby, I go the distance. I've been putting in work, putting in time, putting me first.
Welcome back to this channel. It's Resident Internet Psychic Medium, Spiritual Advisor, Mystic Rain. How you guys doing? How you guys doing? My take. Not well? Not well? Am I getting that right? Am I reading the collective right? Not well? How you guys doing? Neha says, hey, Rain. Hey. Big C, hi. Dia, peace. Brie Jones. This music got me doing the That's So Raven hand shuffle dance. Duchess, please, not right now. B says, hello all, join just as it started. How you guys doing? Period, yes. A baddie on the screen. Who, me? Stop. You guys all right? You guys all right? Bianna says, great. Howdy, Mr. Grain, howdy. I have been around people who have not been great. For those of you that are not in the US, it seems to be that your fellow American counterparts are struggling, I think. Tiffany says, Mystic, hey girl, hey. Hey, Michelle. Are you guys all right? I don't know. I feel like people are not all right. And also, some of you have also reached out to me letting me know that you weren't all right. So I can't even be like, in the collective, I sense. It's just sitting there. Y'all are not all right. Why aren't you okay? Is it really, am I just under a rock somewhere where I'm just not picking up what other people are picking up? Is that what's happening? Is that because I feel all right? I feel okay, but a lot of people I just feel like that's just like not what's happening here. Praying for you all down there. Oh, with love from Canada. Thank you. We needed it. B. We needed it. Ages Beauty. Hi, Miss. Hi. I simply don't care. See, okay. That's how I feel. I feel like I don't care. I feel like I kind of understand how there could be some cause for concern, but I also just feel like I'm not okay. I don't totally care about it, but we'll go into that. I was initially planning to do something lighter. I was like, that Blake Lively mess sounds fun. I was going to dive into that, but considering the circumstances, it feels a little inappropriate to do that. Because the collective made that difficult for me. I had a dream, which sucks because it was a really shitty dream, actually. It was like, I wouldn't really call it a nightmare. I don't really get nightmares. Because even when I'm sleeping, I still have a stank attitude. There's been times where there's been an attempted boogeyman in my dreams, but my dream self always fights back. And so it never really amounts to a full-blown nightmare. It just doesn't do that, right? Because in the dream, I always stop and I'm like, who the hell are you? So anyway, but I had a bad dream. And I had a bad dream. What was it? It was I still got lotion. I think it was the night. Was it the night of the inauguration? Yesterday? And it was weird. And the reason why it was weird was because, one, it didn't feel prophetic and it didn't feel like me. It didn't feel like it was a message specifically for me, but it felt something that I was super aware of. And so anyway, in this dream, I was in some place underground, and then it was with me, and I think it was two other women that I don't know. So I don't even know them in my real life. I'd have no idea who was joining me on this dream journey, right? I finally caught your live video while actually on live. I live in Europe. I always watch them afterwards. Well, welcome, Mina. Welcome. And in that dream, with the two to three, I don't fully remember, right? We were in some sort of underground catacomb. Okay. And I remember looking around going, oh, this is not my normal setting. Right. And then walked in was the Taliban, but they weren't armed. And my real self kicked in and was like, oh, bitch, I've seen this shit play out before. And then it was this weird energy in the dream where no one wanted to make the first move because we like there was like this collective energy of being scared that if we moved, we would piss them off, right? And something in me snapped, and I'm like, I'm not going first. And I took off running. Thought I exited out of this underground room only for it to open up into this space where it was just tunnels, just like catacombs and like tunnels. And every time you would be running, there would be like a set of double doors that like you couldn't access, but it would lead you to the outside, right? Or there would be a window where people could look in and they can see you, but like no one was like helping. So I'm like running through these catacombs. The other women catch on and they're like, "Oh, we probably should run too." So now we're all running through these catacombs trying to get out. But none of us is helping each other, right? So we're not helping the other person. Like we're not forming a collective. We are in a space where we're all fending for ourselves, right? Which was weird. And then anyway, I'm running through these halls and these tunnels, and as I'm running, because it's a dream and things don't make sense, periodically there'd be like this window that would pop up. And then I would look out the window because I'm trying to see, well, can I use it? Can I crawl out of it? Is it open? And there was this guy who was always looking in the windows, same guy. And the weirdest thing about this guy was that he was Amish. What that has to do with anything, not the slightest idea. But I was very like attuned to the fact that he was Amish because I thought it was weird. I had this thought of like, don't they stay in their own world? Why is he so far out in this society and like all these messed up things are happening kind of thing, right? Anyway, he didn't help me. So I'm still running, trying to get out. And I did manage to get out by myself without the other women that I initially started with. And when I came out from under and I turned back to look at where I was underneath a university. I was underneath a university. All these catacombs, this entire system had been built underneath the university. And I remember backing up, looking at it, being like, that is crazy. So you're telling me like there's like the institutions that are on top where people are living what they believe are normal lives. And then underneath that are like these entire walled cities, because the catacombs had electricity. It was lit down there. So it was like this idea of like this reality stacked on top of this reality. And I had woke up and I was like, whoa, that was weird, right? And so I remember also noticing the time it was. It was about 2:30, 3 o'clock when that had happened. Now, I'm someone that observes the witching hour, okay? Every night I wake up anywhere from 2:30 to 3:30, and I'm awake for about 30 minutes to an hour in my witching hour. And that is actually the time where I receive an enormous amount of information, an enormous amount of downloads, and the spirits be talking. Now, here's the thing about the witching hour. This does not mean that spirits like to make an appearance at 3 a.m., right? It just means you can hear them better and you have clarity at this time. This is why some people, they enjoy it when they wake up in the middle of the night and maybe they go make themselves some tea or read a little bit and they say that they like it because it's quiet. And the reason for why that happens, but also why people get a lot of messages during that time, is because the ethereal highway is clear, right? So when you think about like thought forms, it's just energy kind of floating through the air, right? And during the day, there's a lot of people that are awake at the same time, all thinking. And so what happens is that these ethereal highways become really noisy and really, really crowded because you have a lot of people awake at one time in the same area, concentrated, and all these thought forms are going out at the same time. Everyone's thinking, everyone's worried, everyone's confused, and we're all doing it in unison. And so it's really difficult to get any form of clarity during waking hours because everyone is awake. That's why so many people feel a lot more at ease and calm when it's late at night, because everyone has gone to sleep. So there's not as much traffic on the ethereal highway, right? At that time when I woke up, I couldn't even get downloads because there was so much traffic on the ethereal highway. And I was like, this is actually keeping people awake. Like people have actually lost sleep over what has just happened. And I was actually kind of surprised by that because I was sleeping soundly until I felt like I got interrupted, which I also felt was like super, super rude, right? But then I got thinking and I was like, how interesting is it that in the dream, right, what I saw was a terror organization And a lot of people are now in a position where they feel like that's what's currently being formed, that the people who are a part of terror organizations just got pardoned and let out of jail, i.e. KKK, i.e. Proud Boys, right? All the January 6th people that just got pardoned and they're now walking free and different things like that. And I was like, how fascinating is that? How fascinating is it that the dream had a seemingly normal life, right? Institution, university. University is like, that is like traditional institution, right? And so we have this thing where we think is a form of stability in our society, but underneath it, we've got things that are actually happening, right? People who are fearing for their lives, running away, and then terror people, organizations calling the shots, making decisions, right? I said, how fascinating is that? And how fascinating is it that we have people on the outside of our society, being in the US, who are just in observer mode, right? Either they're in the country observing, which is me, because I always talk about how I'm an observer, right? So that's one of it. But also people who are outside of the country who actually may not actually be able to do a whole lot at all to help. And so they're just watching it sort of play out on the news because what do you do, right? And I said, how fascinating is it that I had that kind of dream? Because I don't dream like that. When I go to sleep at night, I'm typically in like a meditative state and I'm usually very relaxed and my dreams are usually often very pleasant. I don't really experience bad dreams or dreams in which I'm running away from something, or the dreams in which I feel like I'm in a space where I'm like trying to preserve life. And so I found that really fascinating. Ageless Beauty says, hi, Mystic. It's Tamika. I know it's Tamika. I know it's you, sweetie. I remember your username. I met you at the book signing. I love you. Love your energy. Still desiring mentorship. I have not forgotten about you. I know it's you. And I knew it was you when I read it, when I originally saw you pop up. Bree Jones says it's giving Stranger Things. Yeah, it was weird. It was weird. But anyway, I digress. But I felt like, you know what? Okay, we're going to talk about it today. And the reason why we're going to talk about it today is because I feel that when you talk about something that upsets you, you take the power away from it. When you are like, that's a dirty thing, I cannot talk about that thing, then that thing has power. Or maybe I shouldn't talk about that thing because what if I make it worse? You know, what if I, add more fuel to the fire? I didn't want to do that. What if I say something that may offend somebody else or accidentally piss somebody off, right? And I'm like, no, we're going to talk about it and we're going to call it on its face, right? Because we are going to take the power back from what this narrative actually is and how it's actually making people feel. And learning how to do something like that is a form of empowering yourself, which is part of what the spiritual journey is all about anyway. So we're going to discuss it. And then we're going to talk about coping because some of you need that as well. Okay. Did you see Elon Musk? See that bigot? Did you see it? Did you see that? And for all of you that are saying that his Nazi salute is because he is autistic, that's an insult to people with autism. Like, come on now. Really? He knew what he was doing. He did it twice and he did it with his whole chest, which, isn't necessarily reassuring because, well, that's the government now, right? And then that also had me thinking, as people are like, but we're going to repeat history. We're going to repeat history. And I'm like, no, babes. It's not like you're going to repeat history. You haven't yet realized that you are actually currently actively repeating the cycle of history. This is like how it started, And then people sympathizing. Yeah, that's how it started. The burning of books. But we did that already. We took care of that a couple of years ago, didn't we? Right? Oh, no. We are well into the throes of recreating and redoing history. We are. We absolutely are. We did all of that already. Every single part of it. And I find it really interesting that people are shocked, surprised, because I don't feel that way. And the reason why I don't feel shocked or surprised is because, well, to be frank, I'm Black. Let me tell you what it's like to live as a Black woman in society. You know what I mean? As a Black woman in society, Fear doesn't get me very far. As a Black woman in society, it requires a significant amount of resilience because if I don't have it, I will die. As a Black woman in society, I don't have time, or to be frank, privilege, to be scared about a white man throwing up a Nazi salute. Now, do I think what he did was wrong? Absolutely. But follow the bouncing ball here. My only perspective of America is this. You have to understand me here. I don't have an additional perspective of what it means to be an American and what it means to live in America. I have the perspective of a Black woman, which, by the way, is the most discriminated against demographic in this country, is the most undesired demographic in this country. And so when it comes to white men acting up, let's just say it's something that I'm actually pretty used to. And so used to it. In fact, let me tell you about my first experience with white men when I went, oh, okay, so that's what it means. One time, I was a little girl, and I was 7. My big sister came to pick me up from school, the one that passed away. I was so excited. And she came to walk me home. And as we are walking down the street, a big Black pickup truck pulls over. And I mean, like, it's like a hoisted up pickup truck. It's not even like normal level to the ground, right? Like, it's like a hoisted up pickup truck. And the window rolls down. And there is a white man wearing a hat with a Confederate flag on it. And he leans out of his window and he says, "You fucking N-word, hard ER," and then proceeds to hawk up a loogie and spit it at me. I was 7. So you see, from my perspective, this country has always been a country about hate and vitriol. I was 7 years old when I learned that not only was I wanted anywhere or desired anywhere, that my life didn't matter. That was my first experience with a white man acting up. That was my first racist experience, discriminatory experience. And from the age of 7, I have always known how people view me in society. From the age of 7, I have learned that resilience for someone that looks like me is a requirement. From the age of 7, I understood what hate was. And what hate was when it's like feeling seemingly like it's coming from no place. Because what, as a 7-year-old girl, what could I have possibly have done to have pissed that man off so bad that he spit at me? I didn't know the man. Never seen him before in my life. And you know what all the other white kids and white families did as they were also walking home? Nothing. In my opinion, this is America. And in the words of Childish Gambino, don't catch them slipping up. That's why I'm unbothered. That's why it doesn't scare me. And that's why I have no fear. I have always had to live a life in which I found a way to accommodate myself, in which I had to find a way to do things myself, and I had to find a way to empower myself to get what it is that I felt rightfully belonged to me. So when people panic, there's a part of me that finds it amusing. My white women, I know you're here. I know you're here. But that's what it is. That's where it comes from. I didn't have the option. I got to sit there and watch my big sister put her shoulders back. Square up. Not because she wanted to, as a woman, but because she had no choice. And she has her little sister who she now has to protect. And that's what this country is. And that's what this country always has been. And all these people that are in this government who are being elected, being appointed into these cabinet positions, the person that's now running the country is nothing but a perfect representation of what this country has been. And the hate that is coming out of these white men is nothing but the perfect representation of what this country has always been. And the sooner you accept that those are the parameters in which you are working, the easier it is to cope. The coping issue is coming from not fully accepting what you are working with. You have looked at the chessboard, saw where the pieces were, and then went, oh shit, I can't play this game, without realizing that, babe, you're on the board already, so move a fucking piece. You don't have the option of not playing. But you do have the option of being smart about how you play, which is why I always say, make informed choices. You have information. Make decisions with the information that you have. When you are in a situation where you feel like you're out of control, which this kind of situation makes a lot of people feel like they're out of control. Why? Because you have someone who you don't agree with, who is making all of these changes and these rules, writing in all these laws that you feel like has the potential of affecting you. And now you feel like you cannot control your environment and you cannot control your space. That causes reasonably anxiety. However, as a Black woman, everyone has always tried to control my environment and everyone has always tried to control my space. So for me, I find it fairly easy to maneuver in those circumstances. It's not new for me. And it hasn't been new since I was 7 years old. But for the people who it is new for, I can understand why it would feel like it's just too much. So this is what you have to do in order to get yourself back to center. The first thing is realizing that the anxiety and the fear that you have is actually not yours. It doesn't actually belong to you, which may sound crazy because you may be like, what are you talking about, Mr. Crane? I'm scared. I don't understand what you're actually talking about, but you have to remember that this is collective. It's a collective feeling. And collective fear always feels significantly more intense than personal fear. It's out of balance. It's out of whack. It's something that the intensity is so much that it almost makes you confused because you don't know how to place it or where it goes. And so you look for a reason and then you assign it a reason. I'm scared because of that thing. When in reality, it may not even be because of that. The fear may not be because of who is in office or who's making the decisions. The fear may just be, I feel like I'm losing my own autonomy and I don't know how to get it back. I don't know what to do. But there's a lot of information on the internet. What you're going to do, my dear marginalized group of people, because I check my analytics, everyone here is marginalized. Unless you are a white man, hetero, I don't know how you would end up here unless you're like, I don't know, some white guy from high school who has like a long lost crush that you never really fully resolved. You know what I mean? And then you're over here peeping just to see what I'm up to these days. You're all marginalized, okay? So what you're going to do is think about you as a marginalized group, what that means for you. You're going to take a look at your loved ones, them as a marginalized group, and what it means to them. For them, you're going to do your research on what is actually occurring, and you are going to make informed decisions on how to make it better to mitigate whatever marginalized group you are actually a part of. Are you Black? Are you Hispanic? Particularly, are you Mexican or are you Mexican presenting? Because that's the shit that they're about to fucking do. They already started the fucking ICE raids. And if we're going to call it on its face, that is what they are doing. And that is who they are looking for. Okay? So let's not sit here and beat around the bush because this is the only way we can fix a problem, right? This is the only way we can restore our own autonomy is if we call it on its face and we say what it is, right? Are you trans? And then LGBT, right? Because unfortunately, the situation that we've gotten working out right for us right now, they're going to hit trans first. Okay. Are you a white woman? Because the people that are mad are white men. They're going to be mad at you before they're mad at me. Because here's the difference between white women and Black women is that they hate me. They're just mad at you. You feel what I'm saying? It's different. Is that where you are? Right? If you're an immigrant, what kind of immigrant are you? We got to talk about it. And you're going to go do the research on what has been signed, on what executive order has just gone into effect. And you're going to figure out how that affects your marginalized groups. And then you're going to make informed choices on how you're going to protect yourself and how you're going to protect your family for what's happening. And what that will do is restore your feeling of having autonomy. It's going to restore the feeling of being able to control your space and control your environment. I'll give you some examples, right? My husband is Korean. Now, he has privilege there. Why? Because if we're going to call it on its face, he's a good immigrant. He's a preferred immigrant, right? But as a family, what are we doing? We're making sure all documentation is printed out and copied, and then that is going in the wallet in order to carry around, right? Just in case, because they're about to get out of hand, okay? You feel what I'm saying? Reproductive health. They're going to go after that. They're already doing it now. They have removed reproductiverights.gov. They have taken that website down. They have gotten rid of it, okay? What's next is that they're going to start targeting birth control. They are going to take away the right fully. They're going to try. There's going to be an attempt at abortion, which is problematic. I'm not even here to be, I don't give a fuck about the debate about being pro-life or pro-choice. I don't care, because reproductive health is health, okay? There's no one that anticipates miscarrying. There is no one that wants to die with the baby still in the womb, okay? There's no one that wants to carry around a dead baby in her body, okay? This isn't a pro-life, pro-choice situation. This is health. This is access to health care, which we already know is a problem considering everything that just happened with Luigi Mangione, okay? We already know that this is a problem. But next, they're going to try to get rid of birth control. Why? Because that's just the next step. That's why. Now, what is something that I'm doing to prep for that? I'm a married woman, but I know for the next few years why this man is in office. And considering the fact that my marginalized group is Black and then woman, because for those of you that are not Black, my people see my Blackness first. People have a problem with my Blackness before they have a problem with me being a woman, right? But as a Black woman, I am more likely to die due to not having access to the healthcare that I need than any other demographic. That's my marginalized group. I am more likely to end up in a hospital and not get the care that I need because that is what happens to my particular marginalized group. So I know that for the next few years, would it be wise to try to conceive? Probably not, right? And so are these easy choices? Not necessarily, but are they informed and empowered choices? Yes. Because regardless of what they're trying to do to take away the rights the woman has to her body, I will still maintain mine. Why is this easy for me to do? Because I have been marching for rights since my ancestors handed it off. So we are going to pull ourselves together. We are going to put our big girl panties on, and we are going to do some research. Lucky for you, I have it here. You know how many fucking notes I had to take before I came live today, just to help you out, for you. So just so you didn't have to actually do it yourself. You know what I mean? So I have it all here. We're going to talk about it, and we're going to talk about the things that you can do. America's going to have to face itself. How far did I miss? Hold on, I'm going back up. Bayana says there's so much fear-mongering people are requiring from each other because they finally want to pay attention. Well, I think it's also, I don't even think it's that they want to pay attention. I think it's that they don't have a choice. I think the US is in this weird space where there's just like this massive, massive, massive mirror being held up that even if you're like trying really, really hard not to look into it, you can't avoid it. It's just there. And so I actually feel like it's a situation where there's like you're being forced to like look at yourself. But depending again on what your marginalized group is, like you may feel like you are someone that has been looking at it the whole time, right? Which is where I sit, where I'm like, why are we shocked? You know? You thought I was lighting something else? I don't partake. I don't partake. Bree Jones says exactly. It's like next. After Musk did that shit, I felt weirdly empowered because anything I do is never going to be as embarrassing as that. That it was also weird, but he also said that shit with his whole chest. He said it with his, it was his whole chest. He did that shit. And I was like, oh, you mean it. Oh, you actually, and then not only do you mean it, you want us to say it. So you did it twice. You did it to the front, and then you turned around so the people behind you could see it, just so they can catch what you did for the people that were in the front of you. Oh, okay. Okay. Noted. It feels wild to see people struggle to accept concepts that we have been experiencing. Really need y'all to get it together. It is weird. It is well, and I always try to be like super sympathetic, but sometimes it's hard because like in the spiritual space, we talk about empathy and compassion and things like that, but like it's difficult, you know, especially for me when in the past this has been like my line of work. It's so funny because I feel like I'm always dropping a bullet point out of the resume, but like it's been my line of work. When I have been in politics and government, that was like advocacy work. I worked in civil rights. I have marched. Yeah. And I got paid to do this work, you know? Like, so when it comes to like, no, this is just how they just act up. Like, this was my 9 to 5. I keep hoping that your prediction that Trump won't finish his term will come true. The pace of the chaos is overwhelming because he's more prepared, knowledgeable for this type of or this type around. I actually think that may be why he may not finish. It's the pacing because it's overwhelming. People don't have an ability to handle that. What we'll see though is whether or not the collective goes left or the collective goes right. Is it going to be a situation where because really what's happening, the fear is what it is and the worry and the concern is what it is because it's new. So collectively, people are still processing the information. They're processing what has happened. They are processing that it's now effective. They are processing all the change. And Trump moved faster than the pace of change that humans are comfortable with. And so what happened is that everyone is now out of their comfort zone. And so people right now are in like a period of disillusionment. And they're just kind of like, whoa, what happened? Because they're processing. Now, either that disillusionment will turn into feeling disempowered, like you can't do anything at all, or what I suspect is going to happen is that it's going to go the other way. When people realize what's happened and it's fully processed and they go, wait, hold on, carry the one, right? They're going to be like, wait a minute. And then I think it's going to turn into like collective pistosity, you know? Well, I arrived today at a very not lovely point. Thank you for sharing your story. As a Black woman, in a person, I appreciate it. Hello, everyone. You know, I think it's one of those things. Is it not lovely? I guess. But is it true? Sure, we can get caught up in whether or not it's lovely or not. But that's not what I'm on this planet to do. Spirituality, you can't do shit in spirituality if you're not facing the truth. You can't do anything. You can't change anything. You can't influence anything. You can't change yourself if you're not in a position where you can look at something and say, okay, this is true. Now let me change it. When people are like, let's not talk about it, nothing changes. And then you end up in the situation where you're like, I really hate my circumstances, but nothing is changing because no one's not maybe accepting, because the accepting part is hard. But for me, I think I accepted when I was 7. He's turning the heat all the way up, and I'm curious to see how our country will respond over time. Yeah, and I think he's curious too. Because he gets off on this stuff. He loves feeling like he has an impact. And his way of doing it is getting a negative impact. It makes him feel effective. It makes him feel loved, right? Valued, like he's powerful. Remember, men's power, particularly when like hetero men, right? Because gay men are more in touch with their feminine side. So if a gay man's power has a tendency to take on the feminine aspect of it, which is influence, right? But like hetero men, their way of power is force and fear mongering, inspiring fear. Because if they can get you to be afraid of them, then maybe you won't question them. Maybe you won't see them as weak. Maybe you won't see them as less than because you're too afraid for your own life to have the logic kick in to be like, hold on, wait a minute, let me evaluate this person's skills, you know? And so men, particularly straight men, have a tendency, this is like their power style, is really what I'm trying to say. But I think the part that they're not really considering is the disadvantage of making a large collective group of people upset at the same time. Because when they're upset at the same time, then they go into this thing where they start comparing stories. And then when people compare stories, they start to wallow. And misery does love company. And you don't want people wallowing together. But the issue on their side that is a part of this that I actually find quite interesting in terms of wanting to observe it is that they have targeted every marginalized group, all of them at the same time, right? And the thing about that is that even though people feel disempowered now, my hope is that at some point, collectively, people realize that there is power in numbers. What I think is going to happen is that people will not realize that there's power in numbers. Because the other side of targeting all marginalized groups is that people have a tendency to worry about themselves or see it from their perspective. And just in the same way I shared with you, my perspective, right? So you prioritize your problem, which it makes sense because that's the thing that is most that's the biggest priority that you have in that moment. And so there's kind of, and even people who are like, okay, I'm going to do this problem. And then when I get through this, then I'm going to help other people, right? We're going to form some allyships, right? There's still an emphasis on what you view to be your particular problem. And so what people do is prioritize their respective problems. And so then you get the situation where like, there's a group over here and a group over here and a movement group over here and a movement group over here. And then it divides people. But because of the emotion, people don't see that they're now divided, which is exactly, this is the rule book, right? Like, strip everybody of what they think are their rights, make them scared, disempower them, and then split them up. This is the rule book. It would be beneficial for the collective to be like, oh shit, that's right. And then combine the issues all together. If all marginalized groups came together as a collective for the greater good and for humanity, Age of Aquarius, it'd be a lot easier to shut it down. But people don't see it that way. And I hope that you won't. America's going to have to face itself, stop ignoring what it truly is, and face it head on. It is. The gag is that they hate their own kind too. I see it all the time. Because it's hatred. Like it's hatred without a home because there's no basis for it. That's why there's no consensus on where it belongs. Like that's why some people like that's how you see the movement shift so fast, right? Like how at one moment it's Black Lives Matter and then it shifts, right? Then we're dealing with transphobia and then it shifts. Like it's shifting so quickly because it doesn't have a home, because it's not founded in anything. right? It was made up by the people who made it up, who were also the people that were in power at that time. If we can convince you to hate each other, then you can't hate me, the one who's in power, taking all your rights and all your money. If I can perform a cute little misdirect, then you'll never be the wiser. It's never serious until it really affects them. While we've been fighting for your kids before you even were. They understand now. Clock it. You're welcome. You just said an entire truthful mouthful. This country is a joke. Yeah, well, unfortunately, I think they're all jokes. Literally every border. Because what? Colonization? But that's a different live. Like Bree says, LMAO. Mystic making the one cis hetero white man who had a crush on her in high school slave. I said what I said. Right. I already know trans folks, especially kids, going to get hit hard, but a lot of these laws are solidifying the discrimination that was already happened. It is. But then here's the next part. Here's the gag. A lot of these laws are going to get repealed. Right. So this is what I'm saying. Like, this is just a couple, 2-3 years. Okay. Even if it goes a full 4 years, this is not everything. And it's not the full stretch of life. It's going to be a blip in time. Like, it's going to be a situation. It's going to be 2030. And people are going to be like, you remember that shit? Wasn't that funny? That was wild. It's going to be the same way we look at the pandemic. It's going to be the same way we're like, oh my God, an entire country shut down. Because not all countries shut down. But the U.S. shut down, for those of you that are not in the U.S. I don't know if your country shut down, but the U.S. shut down completely. Like, we had curfews and we had police who were like on patrol, rounding people up, telling people that they were not allowed to leave their house. And when we did leave the house, we were only allowed to leave the house for certain things, namely food, right? Like, and when I say that now, that shit sounds wild. It sounds wild. Like, we were not allowed to leave for an extended period of time. The government, the federal government, put the whole country on a 2-week shutdown lockdown where we were not allowed to leave the house for 2 weeks, the entire country of the United States, okay? And then different states, counties, and cities had their own rules. Some of them elongated that time. And then they used their police resources to make sure we didn't leave the house. For those of you in the US, that did not happen everywhere, okay? But in our world, in our reality, it did. And when you say that, like when I say it out loud, that shit sounds wild. But here we are. There was a time where a lot of people on here right now thought we may die. Oh shit, better not catch that. There was a time where you couldn't turn on the TV to any station because there was a body count in the US. There was a body count on all the news stations that was ticking up. It had a ticker and it changed every time somebody died during COVID. And when you watch the news, you saw that number climb up, climb. And it never stopped. Like, there was at one point where it looked like you were watching a stopwatch. And we really lived like that. And then they would show us shots of makeshift graves and semi-trucks that they were throwing dead bodies in the back of because they had nowhere else to put them. And that was just in the last few years. Okay. It's still going to be a short-term, short-lived experience. And then all the stuff is going to get repealed, just like he came in and then overturned 78 of Biden's executive orders, which, by the way, when Biden went in, on somewhere near his first few days he was there, he overturned numerous Trump executive orders. The only thing that's going to happen is that the next administration is going to be blue. Why? Because that's the cycle. When you go too far right, too far red, too far Republican, or too far left, too far blue, too far Democrat, it doesn't matter who's in office. Because it's too far, it doesn't balance the scale, so it flips back. That's the cycle. That's just what happens. Most likely, the next administration will be blue, and then they will go in, and whoever is there most likely will do a bunch of executive orders close to their first day in office, repealing a lot of the stuff, right? And figuring out ways to override it, rewrite it, get rid of it, and then put some back and stuff like that, right? So they're going to be working on trying to get rid of it. So a lot of the stuff that goes into effect now won't be in effect forever, is what I'm trying to say. Now, that window of time in between, depending on your marginalized group, may feel a little bit uncomfortable, depending on what the situation is for you and how you're going to have to deal with it. Hand clap, hand clap, hand clap, fire emoji. Thank you. You cracking me up so bad. At this point, I've said so much shit. I don't even remember what I said that was funny. I haven't been watching the news at all. Did Elon Musk do something extremely embarrassing? Elon Musk did the Nazi salute. No, also no one is calling it. Why are we not saying what it is? There's a Nazi in government. Why are we not saying this? Why is everyone using all the words that use the word, yeah, he did a Hail Hitler. Like the salute. He did a Hail Hitler 2 times with his whole chest. And people are sympathizing. Maybe he didn't mean to do it. Maybe he's an awkward guy. Maybe he's, maybe it's because of his autism, right? Shit like that. But yeah, that's what he did. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's what he did. With his whole chest. And he meant it, which is the craziest thing. So there's also going to be a rise in anti-Semitism too, because he gave permission. That's what that was. It was a permission slip. I've been feeling this way for a couple of years, but I truly feel like presidents won't exist anymore, and it's giving after this term. Yeah, I feel what you're saying. I feel what you're saying about that. You guys crack me up. It's giving wake up. The system is broke. Thoughts on America breaking off into 2 to 3 different countries? I mean, countries do it all the time. They break up and then they put them back together all the time. And the total number of countries in the world, the total number changes literally all the time. And so the idea of the possibility of could it break up? Yeah. Could it not? Yeah. Could it break up and they come back together? Yeah. Because that's what countries do, especially when it's so destabilized. And I think that is what's happening now. But it's been also a really long time. The U.S. has been in this process of losing its influence and losing its grasp internationally for a really, 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 really long time. So my question is it a situation where that's just what it is now? That's just the status of the country now, right? Or is it in the process of falling? Because regimes, on average, last about 250 years. It's been about 250 years. And it's 250 years before they fall. So, hi, Kelly. Right, the masses organizing, it's going to get easier because of this. I really hope so. But I don't know. Even in that world, it's so pretentious in the sense of how people view social issues. In that society, I almost called it an industry, which is actually really interesting. But in that society, first of all, though that society is organizing societies are full of elitists, which is a problem, right? So what what causes have I been a part? Well, most recently, I've been in civil rights. Those, like, we all know MLK did the damn thing, but that he was an asshole. We get this, right? And we also know that Malcolm X did the damn thing, but he was an asshole, right? You have like the newer leaders of the movement, and they're assholes. And I find that this has a tendency to jump social causes. So it seems to be across the board. And you have these people who are leading these social causes, but their intentions are not fully selfless, right? Like they care about the cause, but they're also fully aware of the fact that if they're in the front of the cause and the cause can do something, that means clout, notoriety, potentially fame, and that means that for themselves. And so it's a double-edged sword. Finding people who are doing it for the purpose of the greater good in humanity. And in a lot of these societies, right? So when I'm saying like social issues, I'm literally talking like all the marginalized groups. Like I even had to write it down, right? So we're talking Black, we're talking women and women's rights, we're talking reproductive health, we're talking like the banishing of anti-Semitism, we're talking like what are more LGBT, right? Literally any ones that you can think of, they all have like elite groups at the helm running this shit. I don't know if you guys know this, but as an insider, there are elite groups that run the shit. Okay? And it's not always selfless. And I think that's a huge problem with the organizing, because there's also a push to hand off to younger organizers and people who are like sort of young, like people who like are younger now, maybe they don't have families yet, they don't have children yet, and they have a different stake in what the future holds. Because right now, everyone who is leading it are like retirement age. And there's like this weird thing happening where like they don't really want to hand the baton off, right? The people that are trying to now step up and be the leaders, they're too young when they're not. So there's also a whole lot of sort of politics that goes there, which is why I think that all movements, though helpful, they all have a problem being truly effective. Men don't actually have an identity. They have been told on how to be, but they haven't taken the time to discover what it means for self. Say it again for the people in the back. I feel seen. I feel heard. And I resonate, because the issue in society is that, well, men were given purpose. How much of a privilege is that, to be given a purpose and not have to go find it for yourself? They were given a purpose. It was war. They had to go kill people, right? They had a purpose. And then when the war wasn't necessary, they had to make the money. They had to be the breadwinner, you know, the provider, whatever. They had a purpose. It was always assigned to them. And then they don't have that. They don't have war. Now they're looking at women. And women is like, leave me out of it. And now they want their women to be the ones that assign them purpose, to make them feel like a man. You know, like, you need to make room so I can feel like a man. Oh God, it's so much. And like the work, it's just so much. Like, just leave us alone. It's difficult to be empathetic. Even people who work to become spiritual masters here still have to chop wood and carry water, watching themselves, because it's difficult, even though it's so difficult. It's so difficult. And then it's so hard to find where that balance and where that line is, you know? you you intuitively thought that's what Elon did. Does he give that off? He probably gives that off in terms like well, obviously he would give it off because it's obviously what he was thinking. So it would be sitting in his field, which is so gross. Judy says, I don't dream a lot or don't remember them when I do, but in 2020, I dreamed of riots. Initially, I thought it was racially motivated, but I have the sense of it really being more of people versus the government, which is exactly where it's headed. Remember, I say the age of Aquarius, resistance and revolutions, because It's collective energy. Even if all of the social groups don't come together, which they probably won't because they never do. And we are going to, like, this is a cycle we're repeating, but it's also going to be repeated again and again and again and again. Why? Because it's the era, it's the age that we're just sort of in, right? But like, but even with all the groups fighting separately, it's still a lot of energy that's in the collective as a whole. It's still a lot of resistance energy that's in the collective as a whole. And like, that's how you get revolutions. That's how you get war. That the Revolutionary War, that's how they happen. You're hoping for the crash? Well, somebody give me a heads up so I can be out of Dodge. Oh, but you know what is going to be a thing? Going back to like dreaming of riots. So like protesting is going to be kicking in. It's going to be kicking in full force because they're going to keep enacting this stuff, and people are going. When people get to the point where they have processed what is going on, they're going to be like, wait, hold on. And then you're going to start to see movement in the building of new, and like the building of new movements. I feel like there's going to be like a lot of movements are going to get some sort of refresh. And it could be new leaders in the front, but like something about like refresh and messaging about like what's important today kind of thing. Almost this feeling of like it was outdated. So now we have to kind of update the mission kind of thing. So like that's going to happen, but that's also going to spark a lot of protests. Now, the one thing about protests, I feel like I would caution against. I'm not saying don't protest because that's your right? And I've also done protesting myself. Okay. I used to get paid for it because that used to be my line of work. I feel like sometimes I'd be saying shit and they'd be like, what the fuck does she be doing all the fucking day? But I do feel with this particular energy that because it's so intense, because there's so many social issues and there's so many groups and it's going to spark so many different movements at the same time, the energy in the air is just going to be more heightened, and protests are going to flip into riots super fast. Like you're going to be in a moment where it's a peaceful protest. You're going to hear like a smash. You're going to turn around, somebody just busted in a store window, and then it's on. It's going to flip like fast. And so what I would caution or recommend is that either like if you are someone that like participates in protests, that you have some sort of either like a get out plan, and you have a list of contacts of people who know where you are at all times. So don't just go out because you hear about a protest. You need to text people. By the way, in that world, even in like that working world in which I worked, like that was a former job of mine, even as staff, if you're at a protest, people know where you are, right? So even the people that work them know where everyone is. You feel what I'm saying? They know where the team is. You feel what I'm saying? Right? And you keep up to date where you are, what street you're on, you know, what corner is it? Like you stay up to date. And so I would heavily advise that you do that you have some kind of plan and you have some kind of exit strategy, that if you are in a protest, that you don't go so deep into the crowd that it's hard to get out of the crowd. Stay near like a road or a corner where like maybe the protest is on the main road, but then this side road over here, if you take that left, you can get out real quick. Something like that. I would, because they're going to flip and you're going to want to get out. Okay. So just make it easy on yourself. Or maybe figure out how you can advocate in other ways. And advocating could just be being very, very, very loud and using your voice. Not boomers got that baby grip. My issue is when are we as a collective going to individually get our ish together to the point where leadership won't exist? This is the root issue to me. No one's doing the work. Yeah. I was watching The Matrix last night, and there was a part where, what's his name? Morpheus was like, look, the mission, paraphrasing, like something like the mission is to unplug everybody, but until we can unplug them effectively, they're all the enemy. right? And like the mission is to help you wake up, but until you've woken up, you're the problem. You were there in 2020, you're straight. 2020 was wild. Absolutely, absolutely wild. And it was so quick. In my dream, it was a Meg Thee Stallion concert, and everyone started getting notifications at once, and it went up from there, but not violently towards each other, but collective chaos. Yeah. Yep. It's the group think, something about fear. When it's collective, it's worse. When it's like confusion, when people are collectively confused, it's like worse. It's so much, it's just so much worse. And so pull out of the collective, man. Pull out of the collective. By the way, I did promise you a list, and then I just was talking. So, what are the things, my dear marginalized babies, that you got to look out for? Okay, so the Constitution was removed from whitehouse.gov. Problematic. So this means that they're going to be going after it, or there's going to be an attempt to either probably make more amendments. Now, whether or not that's going to be successful, we'll see. The reason why I say that is I have no idea how long it takes to make an amendment to the Constitution. I don't know. Does anybody know? Like, I think I would hope that it's a long process, but then again, I would hope that it was short, depending on what needed to be amended and why it needed to be amended. The concern is just that Trump is in office, so that's a thing, right? So right now, they are working on the amendments that they're working on now, in terms of changing, is the 14th Amendment, which is birthright citizenship. Now, the birthright citizenship thing I find fascinating, interesting. And the reason for that is because this is the only thing in terms of what he's doing where I'm not entirely sure how I feel about it. And let me tell you why before you guys get upset. Birthright citizenship isn't as common as I think people would think. There are many countries that don't do birthright citizenship. Do I think that people here now should be penalized? No. But like, we're talking like 5 years from first of all, there needs to be some kind of window if they're going to do it. But the issue with it is that then they would have to amend the Constitution. And the reason why we have birthright citizenship in the first place is because of ding, 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 racism. Okay. So that's also part of the issue. This is also why we talk about racism being systemic, because it's built in to all of our laws and even the Constitution. Why is it there? Well, what were you going to do with the former slaves? So we have the 14th Constitution, which granted citizenship to birth, and I think the word is like birth and nationalized peoples or something like that, right? But birthright is interesting because it doesn't exist everywhere. It's very popular in North America, some parts of Latin America, but not necessarily in the rest of the world. The majority of the world has a by blood rule, not by soil. We have a by soil rule where most places are by blood. And there's a lot of countries that blend blood and residency. So there's like, so sometimes it's like a little mix match kind of thing, right? But if you don't have the blood for it, you can never be it. You can't marry into it or anything like that. So this is actually one that I'm like curious, like how people feel about it outside of being racist assholes, okay? Because I'm not actually talking about it from the perspective of like undocumented immigrants. I mean, just from the perspective of globally, what's happening on the global front. What do people do? How do people solve this issue? But a lot of the other countries have other pathways for immigrants, right? So that's one issue. This entire Spanish version of the whitehouse.gov website has been removed. Gone. So what does that mean? That they're going to be removing resources for this group of people, right? Also, the reproductiverights.gov website was removed as well. What is that a symbol of? What are they trying to tell us? You ain't got no damn rights. That's what they're trying to tell us. Okay. Removal of DEI. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. And Mark Zuckerberg did a very cute interview with Joe Rogan, where he said in relation to this something along the lines of, well, masculinity shouldn't be penalized. And I thought to myself, how profound is it that, like, you are one of the world's, like, richest men with one of the biggest businesses, damn near a monopoly, and you feel the need to advocate because you feel like masculinity, that there's some form of discrimination against masculinity? And then I had this moment where I was like, I know how big your penis is. Because I just thought that was wild. But here's another thing that tells you about the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion thing. One, as part of the executive order, they said that anyone that was in the federal government that got there on the basis of DEI should leave by the end of the day, like as in not have a job and go home, right? But the other thing about DEI that's really interesting is that DEI really at its core is belonging. It's about taking people who are from different groups, usually different marginalized groups, right? And helping them coexist where everyone feels respected, where everyone feels like maybe their culture or their religion is being respected or heard, and figuring out how to make everyone feel coexist and feel welcomed together as one. And so I just feel like this is symbolic, right? This is because you don't want people to feel like they exist. You don't want people to feel like they are welcomed, and you don't want them to feel like they belong. Particularly if you have Mark Zuckerberg speaking out saying that masculinity is being penalized when he is one of the richest men in the world and he doesn't even live in the US. Isn't he in Singapore or something like that? Like, why are you meddling? Like, what the fuck, bro? You know what I mean? And then what's going to happen, what you're going to see is a rise. I think I mentioned this earlier in domestic terror groups, and that's just because they now have a permission slip. So the KKK, Proud Boys, all the other ones, there's so many names that I couldn't even begin to list them off of the amount of groups that actually exist. And it's just because they have a permission slip to be hateful. And so you're going to see a rise in this. But the craziest thing is I don't actually think it's going to be a rise that is like purely numbers. I think it's just going to be loud because they can be, because they now have the permission slip to just be loud, which is then going to lead to the rise in anti-Semitism. It's really going to be disgusting, right? And then this is when all the groups are going to pop off, when you're going to start to see a lot more movement groups, right? So I had mentioned, I think, was it last live or the live before that? Maybe it was last live, that like nonprofits, you're going to see them spring up, because this is where a lot of nonprofits come from. A lot of nonprofits are advocacy groups, and they spring up in times of like social injustice, right? And so you're going to see them spring up for that, for women's rights, for reproduction, for trans advocacy, which I believe has the potential to spark a much bigger movement in the LGBT community as a whole. And what I think is really interesting is that right now, Black Lives Matter isn't really on the table yet, which I find really fascinating. This is the first time in a long time where Black people are not at the center of a conversation. I'm enjoying the piece. I got to be really honest with you. But what's going to happen is that because you're going to see a rise in like these groups, like these white supremacist groups, we have a lot of white supremacists and like policing. They're going to be feeling empowered and emboldened. And the moment something kicks off, where you have another issue when it comes to police brutality or somebody dies, it's going to, and don't let it happen at the same time where they got somebody else from a different group died, it's all going to kick off. And I do think that then Black Lives Matter will join in after. Now, Black Lives Matter, I'm curious about whether or not it'll keep its name. Why am I curious about whether or not it'll keep its name or it'll go through a refresh or rebrand? Because some of these groups may rebrand themselves because they weren't necessarily successful the first time. Some of these advocacy groups. So I think they'll rebrand. And I think Black Lives Matter may potentially rebrand because, I mean, well, the brand, none of them are really like brands, but I think, let's call it a platform, right? Like changing the messaging or switching up the messaging of the platform, switching up who is the face of these kind of groups and these kind of movement groups. And I think once you have all those groups moving at the same time, then that is when you're going to start getting like the resistance movement. And the resistance movement will be comprised of people from all of these groups. I think that's what's going to happen. I think it's going to be comprised of all people from all of them. I don't know if it'll be strong enough. It could be one of those things where time will tell, because we're so early in that people may have to be extra annoyed, and that just may take some time, right? So anyway, now that you have a list, that is your list of what they're, at least that's today, right? Mind you, it's only Wednesday and he went into office on Monday. So that's everything that's happening today. So I don't know what the update is going to be later. I hope that I don't have to do it. I really, really genuinely wanted to talk about Blake Lively. I really did. I had wanted to do something else, but I was just like, I just feel like this will be an elephant in the room. I'm trying to think, like, here, what I have here. Humans didn't learn a lesson. I said that before as well. Like, I think it's a situation where we didn't learn a lesson. I think it's just what I feel is like it's going to happen is that we're going to go into a cycle. It's going to go up and it's going to go down, and it's going to go up and it's going to go down. And then when they finish and we get a new administration, it's going to just sort of follow in this cycle. And then the people on the right, because I believe it'll probably be a left organization or administration, people on the right will get mad. That'll piss people on the left off. We'll get mad. And then they'll do something. And then that's going to piss people on the right off. We'll get mad. And then they're going to do something. And then we're going to cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle and cycle through. Well, everyone, or until they die. The issue is who's going to be the next round of leaders. J.D. Vance is really, really young, but he's really problematic. So is he a representative of what the next round of leaders is going to be? That's really concerning, because that means it's just going to be a longer period of time. But in the meantime, what you're supposed to be doing is, now that you have that information, is making informed decisions. What part of that group do you belong in? What is your marginalized group? And then make choices based off of what your group is. Make choices for yourself and make choices for your family for the next 2-3 years. Okay? Look at your family, your loved ones, look at your kids. What group are they in? And I know it sounds awful, because you're like, I don't want to be in a group. Why can't I just be myself? Because somebody else already put you in a group. I get it. Look, you're still yourself, right? But society will still society. You understand what I'm saying? So figure out what the group is and then make decisions based off of that particular group. And then that way you'll feel like you have control. You have control over your environment and you have control over your space, and that you don't feel like there's somebody that you don't even know making all these decisions that can potentially affect you, potentially hurt you. You can make your own decisions that are siloed, right? You can still run your household. You're just now running it with information that now exists that you didn't necessarily have before. Before, people were concerned when he was initially elected because they said, well, what is he going to do? Well, we have the answer to that. We know what he just did. So now you have information. So use the information to your advantage. Use the information to empower you. Use the information and figure out a way to make it work in your favor, because the game is already being played. It's already a game of chess, right? So play. Some people will go, well, I don't know how to play chess. The goal isn't the minutia of playing chess. The goal isn't the nitty-gritty rules of playing chess. The goal is just to win, right? And so if you think about it as the goal is one thing, not a list of things, because some people go, well, I got to play chess. I got to do this. I got to make this move. 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 And people in their mind see it as a list of things that they have to do. But the only thing you have to do is win. And you win by choosing that enough is enough for you. Just have enough be enough for you. And by you having enough be enough for you, you give other people permission to have enough be enough for themselves, right? When people see how you're moving and you're like, oh, girl, I heard that shit's crazy, but let me tell you what I'm going to do about it for myself and my family. People are then go, oh my God, I didn't even realize I could do something. I didn't realize that I can do something for myself, or I can do something for my family. Thank you for reminding me that I have power to do something. And then they do something for themselves and for their families, right? So move in a way that's empowered. And remember that if you're feeling like any anxiety or fear or concern, that so much of that is collective. You're not really afraid of what's going to happen. Most likely it's just like you're pissed that you feel like someone's trying to take your autonomy and you don't like it because shit, my dog doesn't like it. She doesn't like what I tell her to do. She's very much a duchess. You know what I mean? It's not natural for people to feel like they're bound. That's not a natural thing. It's natural to want and require some degree of freedom, right? And so it's okay that you feel that way. Acknowledge that that's what you feel and that's what you think, and then go, okay, well, now I'm going to make some moves that work for me, that benefit me, instead of sitting here waiting for others to do it. And this is like a secondary lesson of that, is being like, okay, this is now a time where I like have a little bit more leadership in my own life. Because what happens is that a lot of people are passive players. A lot of people live life passively, which is why they're not fulfilled and which is why they're not satisfied. A lot of people are sitting around waiting for life to happen to them and then getting mad with the cards that they were dealt because they didn't do anything. When they were given a set of cards, they didn't play the hand that they had. Well, I had a bad hand. So fucking lie about the cards that are in your hand. Bluff. Learn to bluff. And learn that life is interactive and you have to play. And if you are taking a back seat to the things that are happening around you, it's not going to feel good and it's not going to feel satisfying. And it may feel a little bit scary because you're not acting, you're not moving, you're not doing anything. If you want to feel in control of your life, and this is not even this particular situation, this is just in general. If you feel out of control in your life, it's because you're not doing anything. If you feel out of control in your life, it's because you have sat back and you went, well, let's see what happens. And then you got pissed about what was happening. You didn't like it. Well, you didn't do anything. You didn't make any decisions. So what the fuck was the universe supposed to give you? You didn't tell it what you wanted. You didn't move in the direction towards your highest dreams. Why? You got scared, probably. You convinced yourself you couldn't do it. You let your mind take over, probably. Right? And now you're sitting there feeling like you're so out of control, like you don't know what to do. And it's okay to not have an answer to that, right? But sometimes it's like, okay, I don't have an answer today, but the answer is going to come, but I'm going to do what I have the answer to today, right? People go, no. Or my personal favorite, people have an answer, but then they don't trust themselves. They don't trust themselves to provide the answer. And so then they wait for somebody else to give them the answer. And people a lot of times would wait and prefer for somebody else to tell them what to do than to do it themselves. And this is how collectively, because like energy attracts like energy, we end up collectively with situations like Trump trying to tell us what to do. When you are observing that behavior in your personal life, yeah, it will then play out externally. And because collectively that's what people do, we're seeing a very collective play out of the situation. This is nothing but a mirror back to the collective as a whole, showing people what they do. We get situations where people are leading, making all of these decisions because you're not leading yourself in your own life. You're waiting for somebody else to come lead you. You're waiting for somebody else to come give you permission, to give you the permission slip. You're waiting for someone to tell you, it's okay. It's okay. You can go after that thing that you actually want to go after. It's okay. Okay? That's what's happening. But you're going to have to start leading in your own life. That means being active, making your own choices, making your own decisions, and then standing on your choices and standing on your decisions. And then people go, well, what if people don't like it? People don't like themselves. Of course, they're not going to like your decision. Because no one who is in a position where they have yet to figure out how to do that for themselves will be happy watching somebody else do it for themselves. That's just not really, I mean, those two energies don't really go together. You know what I mean? I cannot see. Look, if you keep calling me a baddie, I'm going to start feeling myself extra hard, okay? I understand it's dangerous work, but it's so cool that you're paid to do that. Also, it's awesome in general that you're both a mystic and a trained lawyer. So, I train to be a lawyer? Yes. Am I barred? No. Why am I not barred? Because my legal education is from the UK, making my jurisdiction England and Wales. but I now live in the US. And at that time in my life, the plan was to stay and to settle in the UK. But then Brexit happened and they messed with all the immigration categories. And then essentially the UK was like, you ain't got to go home, but you got to get out of here. You know what I mean? And so I came back to the US. And then what happened at that point was I would have had to do a conversion in that state that I was in, which ended up being Georgia. But at that time, wasn't sure if I wanted to stay in the state of Georgia. And then that was also the time when I fell into this line of work. And I ended up with a new thing that I had liked to do. And then I also realized too, was that I didn't like law because law is the establishment. And when I originally went to law school, I thought that I was going to be the advocate that was fighting for rights. I didn't realize how much of it is fighting against it. And I didn't like that. I didn't like the idea of having to be a part of some stuffy establishment like that. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think I have the personality for that. I don't think the two match. And so I ended up on the other side of like advocacy. And that's how I ended up in like working with like nonprofit groups. With the nonprofit groups I work with are like advocacy groups. So that's how that happened. And was it dangerous? It was dangerous. Yeah, that job. Yeah, it was really interesting. It wasn't safe, I will say. Civil rights is definitely not safe. And there was always guys with pew-pews around the team because they just had to be. And there was definitely always a realization that like keep an eye out. This can go south. Be extra vigilant, be extra safe. And your safety, like when you work in those kind of organizations, your safety and your mortality is very much at the forefront of what you do. You're very, very aware of it, like very, very hyper aware of it, especially when you're out in public in those kind of settings, because people know who you are. They may not know your name, but like when you show up there, they know the group you're affiliated with. Shit, sometimes they know your names. Like I've had colleagues whose names have popped up on KKK lists, you know, and like thankfully my name wasn't one of them. But like, oh, like it's really, 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 really intense. And like the stakes are high. And so is the anxiety and the stress. So I took a break out of that. Will I ever go back in? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. I'm not sure. I'll end up going wherever I'm supposed to be, wherever I'm supposed to go, wherever I'm guided to go. I will say that when I was in that environment, I felt very spiritually guided to be in that environment. Like I very spiritually ended up there. It was a fluke to this day. Not sure why or how it happened. Yeah, but it's pretty pretty intense. Yeah, like I have numerous like memories of having to rewrite like security details and all kind of shit for the team that I went. So it was wild. It was wildly intense. Sometimes the right brain people don't know how to balance both sides. You know, I am a right brain person. Do I come across as a right brain person? I'm very, very like, or is that no, I'm left. Never mind. I can be right brain. I was thinking I had it switched. I can be, but I'm more left. They forget migration was the country, was built on to prevent the slaves from revolting, offset population. That's why the birthright was given. Mm-hmm. Let's dive deep and talk about if Snoop Dogg and Nelly will be making an album in 2020. Are you guys disappointed in either of them? Particularly Snoop Dogg, only because his video aged very poorly when he was talking about like the first go, like if you perform for that man kind of thing. Can I tell you what? I personally, I wasn't bothered by it. Can I tell you why? I feel like if one of yous was offered the same check number that Snoop was offered, Are you really going to tell me you wouldn't have taken it? I think I would have considered. Here is the thing. I don't like the man, but I would have considered. Would I have done it? I don't know. It depends on my financial situation, but I would have said something about it. I just would have been upfront about it. I just would have been like, look, I'm here for the check. And then I would have jetted off somewhere. Gulf of America. Golf. Yeah. Yo, the audacity. Oh God, it's so high. It's just so high. But white men have a lot of it though. I've always said, like in life, one of my aspirations was to move more like a white man. Why? Because you just get access to more shit, but the level, a golf. Like, could you imagine if you move with the same level of audacity and you're like, I'm just gonna fucking take this golf? Could you imagine how successful you'd probably be at life? We are waiting to be led. Yeah, most people are waiting to be led. And what has to happen is that you have to snap out of it. It's one of those kind of things. It's not even people are like waiting to be led out of weakness. It's societal indoctrination. Like, you can't help it, Like, in the workforce, you have to ask for permission to be sick, to get a day off. You got to ask for, kids have to ask for permission to go to the bathroom. You can't even empty your bladder freely. So the idea of waiting to be led, I think that just comes from societal conditioning. I don't even think that it's like people's intended weakness. I think that people are inherently free with the desire to be free. I think people inherently have free thinking. And then I think it's beat out of them as a child, just completely. And so what happens is that there's this thing that forms where you go, I'm scared to make the decision or to move first, because what if there's a consequence? And so part of the whole process of leading yourself is overcoming the fear of consequence from making your own decision. Not a nonprofit, Batty, you guys. The truth has yuck feeling to it sometimes. The waiting to be led is a thing so ill because many people believe they're independent thinkers, Neptune deluded. It's yeah. People started in the left brain, buddy, guys. Stop. But I do think that I do think that people are inherently free thinking. Like I just think it's beat out of people. And so I think so much of it is remembering. It's because when you think about like anytime you've had a spiritual growth in your life, it was an moment. Like somebody said something, maybe you read something, and it wasn't a feeling of you learning something new. It was a feeling of knowing or remembering, or I always knew that. Oh, thank you for reminding me. It's a aha, that's right. I remember now. It's that kind of feeling. And so I think people are always free thinking. It's just beat out of them. So they forget their free thinking until someone reminds them, like, hey, wake up out of this. You're free thinking. Until someone, if we're going to use a Matrix line, unplugs them. I would have taken the money. You would have taken the check. No, like I'm trying to say, look, I curse a lot. But I'm sure that there is a number that will have me turn into an oh shoot girly very quickly. I'm sure it exists. Like, I'm sure that they're somewhere. I think Mike Tyson throwing the Paul fight was to prepare us for that. I didn't see that fight. I don't know like how this is coming up at this moment, but I saw a reel today of Mike Tyson's neck, which is large. I was like, whoa. And then I pinched and I zoomed into it. I was like, this is crazy. I like that transparency. Get your bag. It just is. Like it just is what it is. Okay. I like money and I like bags. And it just is what it is. Okay? Like when I tell you, Gucci stores love to see me. And don't let it be a Gucci outlet. I'm leaving with something. We're going home with a trinket. Because if there's one thing I love, it's a knickknack and a paddywhack. And if I can get a check in order to satisfy that, then that's what we're doing. Okay? Do you think having program morals is the biggest downfall of the no movement of people's actions? Not wanting to hurt people or leave them behind when morals is such deeper than that in people. I think that that's actually a really good point, because what I was reflecting on is like when I've asked people in the past, why? Like, what's stopping you? It is a lot of people say that they don't want to hurt people. But I question, or I would then ask the follow-up question, is it that you don't want to hurt people or you don't want to be hurt by the person? Because I remember on my journey, I said that to myself. I said, I don't want to hurt people. And then what I realized just with time, and it took a while, that morphed into I don't want to be hurt by people because I said what I really thought, or because I said what I really felt. Why? Because what if they judged me? And then that led to they ostracized me. They kicked me out of a group. They got mad at me. They yelled at me. When I zoomed out, realized that I was really afraid of facing a consequence, like getting slapped on the hand as a child. But it started with me thinking that I didn't want to hurt people. And so that was a narrative that I had convinced myself of. That, well, I'm really not doing it because I don't want to hurt people. But I realized that, like, that wasn't it. Good point, though. But for me, it wasn't it for me. But I guess all other people can be different. But I would just offer up that follow-up question. Like, is it that you don't want to hurt people or you don't want to be hurt by people? Just simply haven't discovered what morals truly mean. Like, it runs deep, like spiritually. But you know what I also think about morals? Because would I say I have morals? No, I don't. I wouldn't say I have morals. I would say I have values. Something about the word morals makes me feel like it gets thrown on people to shame them. Like, you did this thing. Where are your morals? To shame people back into submission. So I don't think I have morals, but I do think I have like my own personal values. And a crazy thing with morals is that everyone's is different. But I'm just gonna rag on the church a little bit. If we just zoom out real quick and we take a look at like the popular morals, or the ones that are most common, are rooted in the church in terms of like ideas on what you should and shouldn't be doing behavior wise, or should or shouldn't be doing, like, or saying, you shouldn't be doing this, but you shouldn't be saying that. You shouldn't be going here. You shouldn't be doing that, like that kind of stuff. Yeah, like you're a free thinker, like, oh yeah, like you remember now. It was just his thick neck. It was just his thick neck on reels. It was wide. And it was a picture of him when he was 18 years old, and it was 20 inches, and it was just wide. And when I tell you, there's nothing that I hate more than a thick neck. Yes, child, a whole paddywhack. Oh, I don't think they have a zoomed out perception of pain, actions, and long-term effects. Well, yeah, most people don't have foresight. See, the thing is, most people move as the main character of their own story. They only see their side. Like, having empathy and even sympathy is a skill. And it actually is a skill that can actually be developed. Like I remember, like I remember like part of like team building exercises that I used to do would be like personality tests. So people had the ability to see how much empathy they had, their ability to be able to predict long-term effects. And people had the ability to then look at these personality tests, and then that would be their first time they had any realization of how they impacted the people around them and how they impacted the team that they worked on. And it would be their first time seeing it. Needless to say, it caused a lot of meltdowns. I thought I was being innovative. I thought from a spiritual perspective, if you can just see this, but then what I realized now was, oh, I just unplugged you too early again from the matrix. Like you just wasn't ready to see how you actually show up. This year of 9 is going to help people define war when war is important. But then it's going to be redefined again and again and again. But we do have the makings of a war. If we were going to look at our soup, if we called it a soup, and then we looked at all the ingredients in it, we've got them. We've got them. I used to study war as part of my studies. I feel back when I was in grad school, it was part of my program because I have a master's. One of them I was in international security, and that was part of it, studying war, the art of it, the art of war. Morals does feel like a society. Yeah, it is. I don't like more. You don't like them too? It does feel wrong. It does feel wrong. It's something about it. It doesn't feel like it belongs to me. It feels like it's something that's been put on me, and I don't like that. This has been helpful for me. It resonated to hear that I might be afraid of consequences. Yeah. There's a grant that I'm considering applying for, but I was worried about it. Nah, I want the bag. I'm applying. Yes. Also, it's okay to be worried about it because worry is a normal human emotion, but let it pass. We hold worry. We don't let worry pass. Part of the experience of being a human, part of the whole experience is experiencing all of what it means to be a human. And something we have gotten off somewhere, it probably is from spirituality, from like being super positive and gratitude, and being thankful for everything you have all the time, That's probably where we got off on the wrong foot, where there has been like this forced focus on only good things. But the human experience is a spectrum. It's all the things. Worry is one of the things. Anger is one of the things. Annoyance, frustration, those are all the things. It's part of the spectrum. It's part of the human experience. And so what is emotion? It's just energy and motion. It's just trying to flow through you, but we hold it. And worry, we hold worry. I don't know why we hold it, but we hold it so close and we hold it so dear. And sometimes you just have to let it flow through you. And the way you let it flow, you can help it. You can usher it through. And it's simply by asking, why am I afraid? And then going down the rabbit hole. Okay, I'm afraid this is going to happen. Well, why do I think it's going to happen? Because this happened. Okay, but what does that have to do with this? It's not even, well, it's a similar situation. Okay, but what's different about this situation? Like go down the rabbit hole. And eventually what happens is that you dismantle it enough where you realize that there isn't actually any logic behind the worry. Your mind picked up on something. Why? Because beliefs are practiced thoughts. That's all. You had a belief that you weren't going to get it. The belief probably stemmed from having money issues in the past or trying to get resources in the past and not being successful or being rejected or not being used to sharing your idea. That could be one. Feeling like someone may not like your idea or someone could reject your idea, because you're not in the habit of sharing it so openly. And so it doesn't feel like feedback. It feels like criticism, right? That's a big one. Like when you are trying to share your idea and like with grants and stuff, that's something where you got to like share your vision. You got to tell somebody your vision and your plan for what you plan on doing. And that can be hard if you're not used to doing it, or if you feel like you've tried before in the past and you got flack for it. Oh, yeah. What you said in the latest Ascended Thoughts podcast helped me so much regarding focusing on the now and not worrying about what we might do in the future. Good. I'm glad that helped. I'm glad that helped. You gotta dismantle it, but then also not be upset that it's there. Then we hate the worry. That's another thing. We're mad that we're worried. We're frustrated that we're worried. We feel inconvenienced that we're worried. You got to let it flow through you because that's where it was headed anyway, not stopping it at the door. Just like delusion is a hard concept to understand when people apply to the beautiful things they feel are wild dreams, the Lulu or birthright. Ooh. I mean, I like a little delusion. To be quite honest, I think if people like looked at like my dreams and my goals and my ambitions, they would call them Delulu. People have been thinking I was crazy since I was a kid. And I even had teachers think that I was delusional as a kid because I would have these, actually, let me back up. They would call it a wild dream. To me, it was a very achievable goal. I'll never forget the time I had this one teacher and she said to me, I was telling her about something I was going to do. And she was like, I believe in you. And I was like, thank you. I don't really need that, but cool. And she was like, you're the only student. She said, in all the years I've been teaching, which at that time, she said, in my 27 years of teaching, she said, you're the only student that when you say you're going to do something, I know you're going to do it. She was like, but all the other kids will say they have this dream and then they never do it. And which I think is really fascinating because if you look around at the people that are around you now, what you'll see is what that guidance counselor was talking about. The majority of people abandon their dreams in high school. And then they're real pissed when they see you going after yours still. Most people lack compassion and consideration for others outside themselves. Yeah. But compassion is another one of those things. It's a skill. You have to learn how to be compassionate. And some people learn that as a child. Maybe they had compassionate parents. Maybe they had a compassionate friend. So a lot of times to teach people's compassion is hard times. Hard times is a very big compassionate teacher. Falling on hard times. Feeling like you're in a state of lack. Not having access to anything or resources. And then when you feel it for yourself, and people also too become a lot more compassionate at that time. It took me a while to realize it's most people that don't have that skill. It's got me in some mess. Why are you in some mess? Why are you in some mess over these people like that? Don't be losing sleep. Side note, London here, I got my book. So excited to dig in. Oh, good. Oh, gosh. I don't even understand that supply chain. Did you guys have a natural disaster over there? What happened? Because suddenly Amazon was like, oh. You taught me so much in the video so far. It seems to be a condensed version, but don't quote me yet. I'm still in the beginnings. Oh, that makes me so happy. Just came back from a tarot study exploration meetup, and now you're live. Yay. Well, I was. I'm gonna get off. I've been here for a long time, and I'm hungry. I didn't eat my dinner. Not even probably that great at. Oh, you guys are talking to each other. Let me not be in your business. I apologize. I apologize for that. Anyway, guys, I'm gonna hop off. That's all I got to say for right now. Just make some informed choices. Be empowered. And it's okay if you're a little bit scared. That's part of the human experience. And you're only scared because you're doing it for the first time and probably a really, really long time. But trust me when I tell you, the more you do it, the less scary it is and the easier it is to do. Just think of it as forming a new habit and a new practice, and you will be fine. All right? All right, guys. I'm going to love you and leave you. Bye.